The Estonian Defence Forces is the name of the unified armed forces of the Republic of Estonia. The Estonian military is a defence force consisting of land forces, navy, air force and a paramilitary organisation, Defence League. The national defence policy aims to guarantee the preservation of the independence and sovereignty of the state, the integrity of its land area, territorial waters and airspace and its constitutional order. Its main goals remain the development and maintenance of a credible capability to defend the nation's vital interests and development of the defence forces in a way that ensures their interoperability with the armed forces of NATO and European Union member states to participate in the full range of missions for these military alliances. History. After the German Revolution, between the 11th and the 14th of November 1918, ending the German occupation in Estonia, the representatives of Germany formally handed over political power to the government of Estonia. A few days later, Estonia was invaded by the military forces of Bolshevist Russia, marking the beginning of the Estonian War of Independence. The small, poorly armed Estonian military, also known as the, was initially pushed back by the Red Army into the vicinity of the capital city of Estonia, Tallinn. A mere 34 kilometers separated Tallinn and the front line, partly due to the timely arrival of a shipment of arms brought by a British naval squadron. The Bolsheviks were stopped. In January 1919, the Estonian armed forces launched a counter-offensive, the May Offensive, under Commander-in-Chief Johan Laidona. The ground forces were supported by the Royal Navy as well as Finnish, Swedish and Danish volunteers. By the end of February 1919, the Red Army had been expelled from all of the territory of Estonia. On the 2nd of February 1920, the peace treaty of Tartu was signed by the Republic of Estonia and the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. After winning the Estonian Liberation War against Soviet Russia and German Freikorps volunteers, Estonia maintained its independence for 22 years. In August 1939, just prior to the start of World War II, Stalin and Hitler secretly decided the fate of the Republic of Estonia, in which the two leaders agreed to divide Eastern Europe into spheres of special interest, as outlined by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact in its secret additional protocol. According to this treaty, Estonia was to be occupied by the Soviet Union. The Estonian government was forced to give their assent to an agreement which allowed the USSR to establish military bases and station 25,000 troops on Estonian soil for mutual defense. On the 12th of June 1940, the order for a total military blockade of Estonia was given to the Soviet Baltic Fleet, given the overwhelming Soviet force, in order to avoid bloodshed and a futile and hopeless war. On the 17th of June 1940, the Estonian government decided not to resist. The military occupation of Estonia was complete by the 21st of June 1940. The armed forces of Estonia were disarmed in July 1940 by the Red Army according to Soviet orders. Only the Estonian Independence Signal Battalion stationed in Tallinn at Raua Street, in front of the Tallinn School No. 21 continued to resist. As the Red Army brought in additional reinforcements supported by armored fighting vehicles, the battle lasted several hours until sundown. There was 1 dead, several wounded on the Estonian side and about 10 killed and more wounded on the Soviet side. Military resistance ended with negotiations and the Signal Battalion surrendered and was disarmed. In the Second World War, many Estonians joined German Wehrmacht auxiliary units, as well as eventually contributing the volunteers and conscripts for the 20th Waffen-Grenadier Division of the SS, which fought against the Red Army. The Estikait-Savagi was restored on 3 September 1991 by the Supreme Council of the Republic of Estonia. Since 1991, the armed forces of Estonia have reopened and restored more than 30 old and new units and several army branches. Structure. Its main goals remain the development and maintenance of a credible capability to defend the nation's vital interests and development of the EDF in a way that ensures their interoperability with the armed forces of NATO and EU member states and the capability to participate in the full range of alliance missions. In peacetime, the main tasks of EDF are to monitor and maintain control over territorial borders and airspace, maintain combat readiness, train conscripts and develop reserve units, participate in NATO and UN-led international missions, and provide assistance to civilian authorities in case of national emergency. In crises, the main tasks of EDF are to increase the readiness levels of units as required, prepare for transition to wartime structure and begin mobilization as ordered, integrate units from other ministries, and prepare for assistance from and reception of friendly forces. In wartime, the main tasks of EDF are to defend the territorial integrity of the state, to facilitate the arrival and deployment of forces from other countries and cooperate with them, to maintain control over national airspace and facilitate the air defense of strategic assets in cooperation with forces from other countries. Headquarters. In peacetime, the Estonian Defence Forces and the national defence organisations, including the National Guard, are led by the commander of the defence forces. In wartime, all these components are commanded by the Commander-in-Chief of the Defence Forces. The Chief of the Defence Forces and the Commander-in-Chief of the Defence Forces are appointed and released from office by the Riigikogu on the proposal of the President of the Republic of Estonia. Starting from the 5th of December 2011, the Chief of the Defence is Lieutenant General Riho Terras. The Kaitseväe is the headquarters of the military of Estonia and the working body of the Kaitseväe Juhataja of the Defence Forces. The General Staff is a joint staff engaged with operational leadership, training and development of the Defence Forces. Operational leadership is implemented by the operational staff, which plans and controls operations and ensures defense readiness and mobilization. The departments for training and development are responsible for long-term and mid-term planning, resource planning, organization and control of the planning of training and implementation of national defense activities. The General Staff of the Defence Forces is headed by the Chief of the Headquarters of the Estonian Defence Forces. Leadership of the national defense. The national defense of Estonia is conducted on the principles of civilian control inherently bound with the democratic organization of the state. Democratically elected and appointed executive institutions make decisions on the use of the defense forces and determine the respective objectives, allocate the necessary resources and monitor the attainment of the objectives. The implementation of the principles of civilian control is guaranteed by defense-related rights, obligations and responsibilities legislatively laid upon the Parliament, the President of the Republic and the Government of the Republic. The highest leader of the national defense is the President of the Republic, advised in national defense matters by the National Defense Council, composed of the Chairman of the Parliament, the Prime Minister, the Chief of the Defense Forces, the Defense Minister, the Minister of Internal Affairs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Chairman of the Parliamentary National Defense Committee. Executive power in the leadership of the national defense is executed by the Government of the Republic. Organization. The defense forces consist of regular military units totaling 6,500 officers and men, and a voluntary corps, the Defence League, with about 12,600 soldiers. The planned size of the operational structure at the moment is 30,000 personnel. The defense forces are a reserve force, and as such, All physically and mentally healthy male citizens must undergo compulsory military service for the duration of either 8 or 11 months, during which time the conscripts are taught the basic skills needed to be mobilized into active duty. The defense forces are stationed within 4 defense districts with headquarters in Tallinn, Tartu, Luhaņa, and Pärnu. The Estonian army is structured according to the principle of a reserve force, which means that the main part of the defense forces of the state are units in the reserve for a state with few human and economic resources. A reserve force based on the will of defense of the citizens is the most viable form of national defense. In peacetime, the reservists conduct periodic training, and the state purchases of equipment and weapons. In wartime, the reservists are mobilized into military units. The reserve units are formed on the territorial principle, i.e., conscripts from one area are called up at one time to one unit, and after service they are sent to the reserve as one unit. The Estonian army is always in constant defense readiness in cooperation with the other services. Land forces. The Estonian land forces is the main arm of the defense forces. The average size of the military formation in peacetime is about 5,500, of whom about 2,700 are conscripts. The army component of the operational structure consists of an infantry brigade and 4 regional commands. Infantry brigade acts as a training and support frame for deployable units. The land force development priorities are the capability to participate in missions outside the national territory and the capability to perform operations to protect the territory of Estonia, also in cooperation with the Allies. Naval Force. The Merevägi is responsible for all naval operations and protecting of the territorial waters of Estonia. The main functions of the naval force are the preparation and organization of the defense of the territorial waters and coastal line, ensuring the maritime security, communications and sea traffic in the territorial waters, and cooperation with NATO and the navies of other friendly countries around. In case of a crisis situation, the Merevägi must be ready to defend sea approaches, harbor areas, sea lines of communication, and to cooperate with the coalition units. The Merevägi includes units of patrol ships, minesweepers, a frigate, and Coast Guard units, necessary to ensure the security of maritime communications lines and to establish and clear mine barriers. The majority of the naval forces are situated at the Miresadaam Naval Base. The current structure operates the Mineships Division, which also includes a divers group. In addition, there are the Naval Academy, Naval Base at Miresadaam, and the Naval Headquarters, which are situated in Tallinn. Since 1995, numerous mine clearance operations have been carried out in Estonian waters in close cooperation with other navies of the Baltic Sea region in order to find and dispose ordnance and contribute to safe seagoing. In 2007, the Merevägi mineships fleet was modernized and equipped with the Sandown-class mine hunters. In 2010, according to the Long-Term Defense Development Plan, it was announced that the Merevägi will receive some new capabilities. Of those new warfare capabilities, the procurement of multi-role fast patrol boats will be the priority. The operational need for such vessels is likely to ensure defensive territorial waters and to improve maritime surveillance. In addition to the current capabilities, the command and control and shore-to-vessel communications will also be further improved. Air Force. The Estonian Air Force is the main arm of the Estonian aviation forces. The roots of the current organization go back to 1918, when August emperors organized the first Estonian aviation unit. The independence war gave great impulses to the development of the Estonian Air Force, which had by middle of 1930s more than 130 modern aircraft. The organization consisted then of Naval Aviation Group, Flight School, Airbase, Air Defense Artillery Group. Estonian engineers designed and constructed the fighter aircraft, which were with outstanding performance. Estonian Air Force was re-established in 1991 with goals to gain the control over Estonian airspace and air defense of strategic objects. Today the Air Force does not have an aviation wing of its own and consists of 3 units: the Air Force Star, the Air Force Base and the Air Surveillance Wing. The Air Force has 4 main goals to accomplish for medium term: to establish an air surveillance capability, and based on that, to begin the development of a national air defense system; to establish an air defense command and control capability; to build up Amari Air Base as a prospective main NATO interoperable airfield and part of host nation support in Estonia; to establish an Air Force communication and information system, which is interoperable with relevant NATO integrated extended air defense system and NATIENADS; to develop a data exchange systems in the Air Force; to prepare a rotary wing component of the Air Force. The Estonian Air Force was slow to reform because of the severely damaged and destroyed infrastructure left by the Soviet Air Force and air defense units. The Estonian Air Force was restored on April 13, 1994. From 1993 to 1995, Estonia received in total 2 Let L410 UVP transport aircraft, 3 Mi-2 and 4 Mi-8 helicopters. The service branch received old Soviet radars and AAA equipment. The majority of Estonian Air Force units are stationed at one military airfield, Amari Air Base, where renovation was completed in 2012. The airfield and garrison at Amari is focused on preparing and assisting cooperation with NATO and the air forces of partner nations and allow it to supply the standardized airfield and aircraft services necessary for host nation support. In 2014, Estonia has shown interest in purchasing Saab JAS-39 Gripen fighters from Sweden, which would lead the creation of aviation wing of the service branch, which currently does not exist. Defence League. The Defence League is a voluntary military national defence organisation, which acts in the area of government of the Ministry of Defence. The Defence League possesses arms and engages in military exercises. The main goal of the Defence League is, on the basis of the citizens' free will and initiative, to enhance the readiness of the nation to defend its independence and its constitutional order, including in the event of military threat. The Defence League plays an important role in supporting the civil structures. Its members aid in putting out wildfires, volunteer as assistant police members, and ensure safety at various events. Units, consisting of voluntary members of the Defence League, also participate in international peace support operations such as in the Balkan states. The Defence League and its affiliated organizations have positive relations with partner organizations in the Nordic countries, the United States and the United Kingdom. The organization is divided into 15 Defence League regional units whose areas of responsibility mostly coincide with the borders of Estonia's counties. Today, the Defence League has over 11,000 members. The affiliated organizations of the Defence League combine more than 20,000 volunteers in all, and include the Estonian Defence League's Women's Corps Naiskodukaitse, the Estonian Defence League's Boys Corps Nordkotkad, and the Estonian Defence League's Girls Corps Kodututed. Modernization. International cooperation. Since 2000 2004, Estonia has been a full member of the NATO. It had been one of its foremost priorities since the restoration of independence. The United States is among the countries with which Estonia has very close cooperation in the defense and security fields. Currently, Estonia takes seriously participation in the NATO response force and contributes in NTMI. Until 2009, Estonia had 40 soldiers fighting alongside American forces in the Iraq War and 150 soldiers, or about 3% of its total active military force, fighting alongside British forces during the war in Afghanistan. Estonian forces have since been withdrawn from Iraq. In both cases, the units were regularly rotated. Estonia also provides peacekeepers for international missions in both Bosnia and Kosovo within the framework of the KFOR, and also contributes to EU battle groups and NATO response force rotations and the EU's anti-piracy operations off the coast of Somalia. The Estonian military employs SDANAG weapons and equipment acquired from Finland, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, Great Britain, the United States and Israel. Electronic warfare. The military of Estonia is introducing a new 21st-century-based cyber warfare and defense formation in order to protect the vital infrastructure and infrastructure of Estonia. Currently, the leading organization in the Estonian cyber defense is the CERT, established in 2006 as an organization responsible for the management of security incidents in computer networks. Its task is to assist Estonian Internet users in the implementation of preventive measures in order to reduce possible damage from security incidents and to help them in responding to security threats. The unit deals with security incidents that occur in Estonian networks, are started there, or have been notified of by citizens or institutions either in Estonia or abroad. On the 25th of June 2007, Estonian President Toomas Hendrik Ilves met with the President of United States, George W. Bush. Among the topics discussed were the attacks on Estonian infrastructure. The attacks triggered a number of military organizations around the world to reconsider the importance of network security to modern military doctrine. On the 14th of June 2007, defense ministers of NATO members held a meeting in Brussels, issuing a joint communiqué promising immediate action. First public results are estimated to arrive by autumn 2007. In the aftermath of the cyber attacks on Estonia 2007, plans to combine network defense with Estonian military doctrine and related NATO plans to create a cybernetic defense center in Estonia have been nicknamed the Tiger's Defense, in reference to Tigri Hoop.